Okay, welcome to the Vancouver Hawks coach education element. We're here with Matthias Ahrens. This is the first of our train to compete, train to train webinars. So we're going to walk you through some helpful tips and ways to improve your coaching, hopefully, and get back into coaching after the long freeze we've just had. Get really start to get the most out of what we're doing on the field. So we're joined here by Matthias Ahrens. He's a very highly qualified coach, and we're very lucky to have him. So thank you for coming and doing this with us, Matthias.
Yeah, thank you very much, Alex. Welcome. I hope we can cover today some of the topics which helps you to coach better in the Spring League, what's coming up quite quickly. So we face a situation, players are coming back. Some of them have already played in the Fall League. Some maybe have not played for a whole year. And the question will be, and we will cover this in this webinar, how do we get back to training in the best way? So before we do this, I would like that you consider a bit what age groups you're training. We have on one side train to train group. Under 14s, we have under 16s can already go into the train to compete. This is where it is not so clear. Cannot really say there's a break, but under 18 is for sure the train to compete group.
Yeah, so we're looking at in this video we're looking at the age group around 13 to 18 years old, and that's a very rough area. If you have younger kids, we do have another video at the fundamentals and learn to train, and you can go and find us there. So right, the way this is going to work, we're going to go through a little presentation with you guys, and then you will have the opportunity to send in any thoughts or topics that you want covered in the next one of these we do. So as you're watching through, please think about those things, and you'll have an opportunity to send them in. So right now we're going to start the presentation.
Okay, so we will go through the back to training and where to start. What we cover is set up a good training, warm up, purpose to the session, input of the coach, basic techniques and tactics, and to the end it's the skill matrix. So there is a lot of information in here what we will cover, and but we still hope to get through all of this very quickly. Good. We start with set up a good training. What is the most important in having a good training? Fun. Fun is the most important factor in all parts of training. You have to build it in. Please do this. And what produces fun? If you set out goals which are achievable, if you do have challenges in training, if you have competition in training, this always produces good fun.
I think that's a really good point, Matthias. A lot of people think that when we say fun, we're just talking about, okay, make some games and that's it. But we should give our learners credit. They want to learn, and they want to feel like they're improving, and fun can be something that challenges them to make themselves better. It's not just about happy clappy games.
Yeah, so the warm-up, the question here, what does the warm-up do for us? Besides the physiological reasons, just wait and consider what else this could do for you. Right. You could pick them up from school, getting them into a new environment, giving them lots of movement and activity experiences, and then they're ready to go for a great time at your training for 1 hour, and it will go over in a split of a second. So the structure of a good training normally is a warm up, and the warm up can be a warm up game. So I will cover after the structural warm up, but I think it's quite important for a train team and even in a train to.
So what we're looking at here is the structure of a whole session, right? With the warm up, the technical, the games, and then the cool down. And you're focusing now on the warm up part of it, right?
Yeah. So the structure of a good training should have a warm up game, and I think this is quite important. And this does not mean you only have to go into games what you would play in fundamentals like Octopussy. I think you can have serious games in this age groups in both train to train and train to compete. You can have 2v2 games on 2 goals, on 4 goals. You can have 3v3 games. You can have also 5 against 5 games. That's all possible. Just set out different targets, and then you have a good start into the session. Tactical part of the session is pretty much the heart of it. This is where you want to get your improvements in, well, let me say this. If you have a good game in the beginning, you already start to develop the team. With the technical, tactical part, you can go more into depth what you want to achieve, and in the game you can follow up on the topics you worked on before. The cool down is quite important, and I think in train to train, you should get the team to a stage where they are able to do a cool down, and train to compete. That should be standard. So over here we have a warm up what comes from Kate Perry from FHBC, and it is out of 3 different 5 different parts, from glute activation up until the acceleration, deceleration runs at the end. I put in now all of the parts of it. What I have agreed with Alex is that we will create a film for this, that Hawks has a standard warm-up everyone can follow.
Yeah, so much of what we're talking about today, we're going to touch on a lot of points. This is just designed to be an overview, and then when we get out onto the field and during the times when Matthias can come and mentor you, and at other times we'll go into more detail in these points. We're just giving an overview right now.
Yeah, so if you can see this exercises, acceleration 10 meters, then stop up to 80%. I think this is quite easy to understand. And if you want to introduce this already in your first training, you're welcome. So the purpose of the session, also one of the central points of this webinar is we want to make the point it is very important to have a purpose in training. If you want to achieve a goal, you best make a plan for it, and this starts with the purpose of the session. So fundamental movement skills are very important, and fundamental movement skills go still up into the adult area where you train balancing on different levels to improve performance.
Matthias, could you just explain for us what a fundamental movement skill is, how that's different from the sport-specific skill?
All the fundamental movement skills are pretty much the underlying skills for running. If I want to run straight, I need to be able to lift my knee. So very often what happens, unfortunately, more on the girls' side than on the boys' side, is that the knees are not lifted very high. So I can improve these things with fundamental movement skills. I can run forward, I can run sideways, I can run backwards, I can jump, I can land differently, and sprinting means I have to be on the front part of the foot and not on the heel. On the heel I cannot sprint. So these are all little points what we can train in fundamental movement skills. So for instance, I can set up a row of cones, and I can give different tasks to run over it. I can say we run over it with high knees. I can say we run through it sidewards with side steps, and. So these are all fundamental movement skills. And how do I get this then into training?
And not just running, right? It can also be the throwing skill or the striking skill.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you can do partner exercises where you throw the ball. You have always to keep in mind that you keep the safety in this. Very important. And if the players are younger, I would suggest if you do this, you take tennis balls. Good. The purpose of the session starts normally with an objective. What do you want to achieve in the training session? And I have listed over here technical and tactical objectives. So the passing becomes for sure in the beginning of the season very important. Lots of the players have not hit a ball for a long time, and they need to get some accuracy back. Receiving is also very, very high on the list. Hitting on net is very high on the list for the fun factor and what everyone wants to do. And defending is quite a central part of the game. The 3D skills in this age group should be at least in the train introduced, but I think players already do this on a high level in this age group. On the tactical side, plan your session with small unit play for a 2-on-1, 3v2, 4v2, overload situation and counter attacks. How do you want to attack the D, and how do you want to defend? All these things we will also deepen in a practical pitch session where we can talk about these points. Secondly, Also in our second webinar, we will answer questions to this, and I think there will be lots of questions, I would guess, to the technical part.
And can I just ask, Matthias, how do you decide how much technical and how much to focus on the technical, how much to focus on the tactical in your sessions?
Well, tactical training always takes lots of time, involves lots of standing, and for that I think it is always quite a waste of time. So unfortunately, think of other ways to do team tactics. So get in a team meeting and present things on the board, how you want to set up your team, and explain tactical overload situation on the board, not necessarily on the playing field.
So on that, when you have that precious field time, you want to be working mainly on technical aspects.
Absolutely. And again, a 2-on-1 is a tactical exercise, and I would still think 2-on-1 is 3-on-2, 4-on-2. These are exercises where you surely can work on this during the training, because they're firstly they produce good outcomes, and you get also a good learning experience in it. So the purpose of the session is comes down to learning. Learning is one of the most important parts in our training. We want to get the player from a rough form to the finest form. What can already happen in train to train and train to compete setups. So what? Sorry, I need to find this now.
So a basic idea is that the rough form is the first steps of learning, where you're still going to be making lots of mistakes, and then you progress through a sort of intermediate form of the skill. Let's take passing as an example of a skill. You might go through these steps, and then at the end of your learning, should you ever come to an end in your learning, you'll hone your finest form. And Matthias is going to take us through that in more detail.
Yeah, the rough form is, you can identify the rough form when players are not really possible to repeat the technique on a stable level. When the execution often fails and they cannot complete a practice without mistakes. So the fine form of the technique, you can identify when a technique is quite precise, executed, and repeated stable, but not necessarily with opposition contact in it. And the finest form, you can identify when the technique is precisely executed in various changing situations, what means on different parts of the field, and it includes opposition impact. So why is it important to mention? Because you want to get your player to the finest form, and you want then also to judge, okay, where is my player? I have two players who are already in the finest form. Maybe I'll get a third player to it. I can make a smaller group, and they can train together. I have another group which is in the fine form, and they can train together, and so you will get different training stimulances into your training. It doesn't always mean that you have always to do performance groups. It also can mean that you can put one finest form player together with a rough and fine form player. Yeah, so then you have again different stimulus, and you have different social outcomes in your training.
So, I mean, this might be, you might feel this is quite in depth. We're not trying to sort of blind you with any great insights here. It's basically just we're asking you to look at the players you have and see how well do they have the various skills down, and then how can you use that information in the way you set up your drills and your whole sessions. So being more aware of where your players are on the in their learning will help you to create better sessions.
Excellent. So if you go to the point now that you are facing the first training and you still don't know where to start, then I still would suggest, think about what do you want to get out of the whole training. You've trained 10 training times, maybe 11, maybe 12. And at the beginning, you should say quite clearly at the end of the last training block, I want that most of my players are able to hit a ball over 50 meters to a teammate, or other task. Players should be able to push the ball off the right foot to a teammate who is 5 or 10 meters away. Okay, so where do I start best? Attack or defense? Some of you might see in the Super Bowl final, and you will remember that was quite exciting one for all the defense skills. So defending also wins games, and my suggestion is start with defending, and then come in with the attack. But surely you're free to also start with the attack. This is open to everyone. Good. So the input of the coach is now the part where we have to think, okay, we are just about to enter Hamburg, or do we train at UBC or UBC, and what is my task as coach? Encourage your player, have always a positive feedback to them. That is quite a big one. Treat them with respect, I think, understands itself. And be aware that the young adults, I think, on the girl side stronger than on the boy side, but maybe on both sides sometimes the same, can have very, very clear ideas of themselves already, and give them space for this. Listen to them, and if you show good listening skills, you always show them that you have great respect for them. Create a team spirit comes into this. How do you create a team spirit? Is by giving out tasks to all players. So this today, player A leads the warm-up. The next time, another player does it. You give players a task to not always, but you can say, all right, over here is a team. You set up how you play by yourself. If you play this formation or that formation, these are all small things, so you can create a good team spirit. Hold a parent meeting is is a quite big one. Yeah, in this parent meeting, you should cover also your plan for the season. You should cover uh, what you want to achieve with them. Always keep in mind that for parents, the most important is what impact has your training on your son, and that means please uh, do not go into too much depth into such an explanation in your tactics. Just say, all right, I want to achieve that we are this year uh, uh, the Hawks, and we uh, fly in and bite everyone or whatever.
I think with the parent meetings, don't be, that might seem like a daunting thing or something like that. You can just talk to the parents for 5 minutes before the first session, if you can get most of them there. I mean, you're welcome to, I know coaches who will, like, have a party at their house. You don't have to go into that much detail, but by including the parents in the conversation, you're validating them and their hopes and whatever, and you're also helping yourself down the line, as the parents are going to be a huge part of the feedback that you're going to get. So have them be part of the conversation from the start.
Excellent. Yeah. So input of the coach. Now we are on the pitch. You run an exercise. Give coaching points. So at the beginning of the exercise, start to explain it, and then best you demonstrate it. In younger age group, you should demonstrate it then again. But older age groups, you can think about to present it in different ways. Sometimes you just explain it. Sometimes you just draw it. Sometimes you just show it. So people get different stimulus by that, and you will also find out quite quickly who is able to read from something what is written down and get a transfer onto the pitch, or is someone only able to hear an explanation and get it on the pitch. This helps you to get better access to your players, and you can understand the players better, what makes training then in the long run much easier. Work if an exercise is running on the field, work on the flow. It is the most important that players find out by themselves where the mistake is, and your task as a coach is to give them, sometimes in the whole group, sometimes in a small group, sometimes in a one-on-one, solutions how they can improve their personal outcome, and that means you better do not stop the exercise very early, and if you stop it, try to keep it very brief and get the players back into a flow. Work on open and restricted environments is always quite clear. In a drill, you work on lots of repetition. In a game, in an open environment, everyone can really live and live their sport and enjoy it.
So, and just to add to that, a restricted environment means that we're tending to isolate one or a smaller number of skills, maybe in a particular exercise focused on one type of skill, whereas the open, where it's a lot more free form, maybe a game type situation.
Yeah. Good. Basic techniques. Basic techniques, all the techniques what you can use in a one-on-one and two-on-one and 2v2. So that means we have running with the ball, we have elimination in a one-on-one. In a two-on-one, we have running with the ball, we have a passing element in it, we have an elimination in it, and in all three of them, we have the elimination as the part of defending in it. Good. So the next exercise over here, what you see is a quite complex one, and I know Hawks does not have the rebound boards, but you don't need a rebound board to run this exercise. You can quite simply run over here in the middle. A coach can be, or the player can be, and then the first pass comes into the coach. The second player starts to run, he gets the ball back and starts to dribble, and the defender goes into a one-on-one. Yeah, you can extend this, that a second player comes in, then you have two attackers against one defenders, or you have a 2v2. So this is a quite nice exercise.
And just to clarify, we're going to give you some a few little ideas of exercises, and here's a fantastic example. We're not going to talk through them in great detail. We could spend hours doing that. The idea is we're going to show you a few now, just very quickly. You can always pause the video to understand them better. But then we're looking, so yeah, as Matthias is showing us, here's some pros that's going to tell us about the activities. We're not going to talk through all of these in detail now. Again, you can come back to us with questions about these if you have them. And we're going to extend these and look at them in more detail on the field during our sessions later in the preseason.
Good. Now if we tackle the tactics, the defending principles is what I want to put forward in here. We have another webinar, and I think we will look in this webinar also more to the attacking part. So the defending principles, and this should be clear in train to train and train to compete, is defending away to the goal is always the first principle. Putting pressure on the ball carrier is the second, and make spaces small. So these are the three major principles. The question now will be, okay, what do I do if I play man-to-man? What do I do if I play a zone defense? It always stays the same. You need to defend the way to the goal. So no one is released from this duty, even if there's a man-to-man marking. What then comes into putting pressure on the ball carrier? Again, over here, if we have a man-to-man marking situation and everyone is marking and no one is putting pressure on the ball carrier, we will not survive, because they just run into the D and score. So the principle in behind here is everyone who comes in with four-stick can come and tackle. That means, again, on the four-stick side, on the left side, if I'm defending on the left side of the ball, I come in with the four-stick and tackle the ball carrier. That means I leave my direct opposition on the way to the ball carrier, and he cannot pass the ball to my teammate. So
I would just say that this is probably quite abstract for you guys right now, and again, we're going to go into this in more detail as we move through into the pitch elements.
Yeah, defending the circle outside the circle is quite important to avoid any penalty corners. You will experience, it is very interesting. There are two different type of players on the field. The one player is a defender who thinks he needs to be in the D and does not step out of the D. And then you also concede corners from there. And you have the other part of player who is the attacker who thinks he never goes into the defending D. So both of these players you need to make clear that the first principle is to defend outside the D, but a striker also needs to defend in the D if it's necessary. Stick fouls outside the D are normally lead into penalty corners, what we need to avoid. So if you have a team what always throws a stick in, put in some rules. There's no stick throwing at all anymore, and there will be immediately a big change in defending penalty corners. Channel the ball away from the center to the side. I think this is quite important on both sides. It is not only the right side, it is where you have the forestick and you can easily get the player into a wide position, or also on the left side where you have the reverse stick. It is less dangerous to have the player on the outside of the field. Create one attacker against two defender situation, and this best on the sideline, and then you have a very, very restricted space, and that means you made spaces small. The help side defender always moves in from the other side to help out, because what we've seen, what we said, for instance, is that if the ball carrier has to get someone has to put pressure onto the ball carrier, that means a player who is marking steps out, and the help side defender has to cover. All right, but again, more maybe in our practical sessions. The skill matrix, and this is quite a big one, and I would suggest you really read through this, and we have then the next time more questions to it.
So yeah, we're not going to talk through every element of this because it would be annoying for everyone involved. We respect your time and our own, but please take some time to have a look at these. These are the sort of things that we are hoping that our under 15, under 16 players are going to be capable of. And obviously, at the start of your block of coaching, there's going to be big gaps, and your job is to improve your players in where those gaps are. And part of your job is to identify what they are already good at and what they are going to need a lot of help with.
Yeah, so hockey is not only about the skill work with the stick. It is also quite a lot of running, and if the boys and girls get older and older, I think more of the athletics comes in. So you need to find time to work on this, and best you put this outside of the training session. So maybe the team is happy to meet half an hour early, and then you can do some endurance blocks. I think in under 18 we come over here. Yes, in under 18 we should be able to run for 30 minutes. Yeah, I know this sounds quite a lot, and you maybe do not present this in the same way to the players. But half an hour exercise is still only one half time. We have now 2 quarters, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So good. So we need to build endurance. We can do this with longer runs. We can do this also with shuttle runs. Please keep in mind that is no harm to do run to the 25 and back, run to the 25 and back, and do this in with some repetitions. Okay. Good. What you need to bring in this block is coordination exercises, and you need to bring core stability. Please, well, I maybe should not say you need to bring it in. It helps a lot. It helps a lot if the players are stronger. They can perform more techniques, and it is more fun for them. So if you have a team what is keen to do these things, introduce it. I'm pretty sure, and if you introduce this in a competitive way and in a fun way, I'm pretty sure they will love to do these things. Good. Everything else, I think we will review.
Yeah. So yeah. Again, the opportunity to pause the video as you look at these skill matrices and how they apply to you. Like we said, we're not going to talk through all of this now. Basically, the rest of our time that we have in the next webinar and on the field is going to be developing various elements of these skills matrices. So prepare to come armed with questions. Okay. So here again, you can pause on that if you need to.
Yeah.
All right. So that sort of concludes the presentation part of of what we're doing here. So all that remains for us to do is to say a huge thank you to Matthias for coming into the Hawks and sharing some of his insights and knowledge. We're very lucky to have him with us, and he's. I do want to let you know. You should already know this, but as we've alluded to many times, there's going to be another webinar. We're going to have 2 on-field sessions, and you're also going to have the opportunity to get some one-to-one mentoring, both during your practice sessions and also at games, which is quite a unique opportunity that doesn't come along very often. So please make the most of that and let us know that you want it, and we'll make it happen for you. I would also like to say a huge thank you to Jonathan Ling here. Here he is, who is our producer. He's a Vancouver Hawks board member and has come in to help produce this for us. So we're very grateful to him as well. And thank you for sticking with us through this webinar. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.